When you're just starting your subscription box business, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day tasks. I'm talking today with one of my past guests. Last time she was on the podcast, she had just doubled her subscription box and was figuring out how to handle the growth. Now she's doubled again and stepping into her new role as a business owner. Come catch up with Cheryl and I. It's time to start scaling your subscription box business.
Welcome to the Launch Your Box podcast with weekly tips, tricks, and strategies to start, launch, and grow your subscription box. Now, here's your host, Sarah Williams.
Welcome back to the Launch Your Box podcast. Y'all, today is going to be I don't know what you do when you listen to podcasts. Go for a walk, sit by the patio, go for a drive, whatever it is, because this one's going to be a good one. It's going to be like two old friends seeing each other for the first time in a few years. But it's not, we've seen each other, but we're catching up on all the things. Today, I'm talking with Cheryl Ham. And if you're in the Launch Your Box community, you know Cheryl. If you've been listening to the Launch Your Box podcast, you might know Cheryl from a previous episode, but we're going to go way back to episode number 16. Cheryl?
Oh my goodness.
Episode 16. I was like a baby podcaster when I first interviewed you on episode number 16. Like, it's so crazy. But so much has happened and changed with Cheryl's business. And that is the reason that I'm catching up. I've been doing a series of catch-ups with past guests. And I was so excited to jump on this call because here's what we know. We know that a subscription box business is ever changing. We know that our business is not a one and done. You don't just launch it and then the end of story. It is an ever growing, changing business that we are constantly pivoting. We are constantly growing ourselves personally. And just taking a look at where somebody was and where somebody is now in this industry is really inspiring, and it's really eye-opening. The things that we've been challenged, and we're probably going to talk about some challenges today with Cheryl, and we're going to talk about how she's overcome those challenges and what the past 2 years has looked like. Because if you remember back on episode 16, we talked about her business exploding over one launch. And so write that down. If you've not heard that episode, go back and listen to it so you can kind of see the difference in Cheryl as we're talking today from where she was then and where she is now. So Cheryl, gosh, it's so good to talk to you.
It is so good to see your face. It is so good to be back on the podcast. I was thinking the same thing, like, oh, Sarah's podcast is very fancy now. Like it's so fancy. It's so fancy. And I was like, oh, it's so exciting to be invited back. I'm just beyond thrilled to talk to you.
I mean, I probably recorded our podcast in my closet the first time because I was trying to get like the best sound and buffer the noise and all the things. So we've leveled up for sure.
Yes.
But let's go back because if people don't know who you are, or even people in our community, they may not know the journey. And that's just another thing that we're going to talk about today, because sometimes when we have wins, and especially I see it in the community, I talked a little bit about this in our 100th episode when I talked with the mastermind ladies, but sometimes you just see the now and present and you think, oh, they always win. They just always win. But you haven't seen like what's taken them to get to this point, right? You haven't seen like what they've struggled through or how long their journey has. You're just seeing their win right now, and you're not really seeing what came before that win. And so I want to just go back. I want you to tell them a little bit about your business, and let's go back to how you started.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an independent yarn dyer, and I started a yarn dyeing business back in 2017. So it's been quite a journey, right? When I started, I have no formal training. I have no business training. I am just somebody who saw this thing in the world, hand-dyed yarn, and I thought I could do that. I was a knitter. I was like really into yarn and all of those things at the time. And I thought, I want to try that. And I always knew I sort of wanted to have a business for myself. And so I started this business and I saw some success with it, and that was great. But then in 2019, I decided I wanted to launch a subscription. I was tired of just hustling so hard every day for sale after sale after sale. It just seemed never ending. And I really did not enjoy that part of business. And I thought, I need a subscription in my life. So I launched Yarnable, which is a hand-dyed yarn subscription. You get yarn every month. It's been amazing, but it was really slow for me to grow. And it took a couple years for me to really, see any sort of decent number of subscribers for it to get to a place where I thought like, okay, I could actually make this a real part of my business. And honestly, I feel like my business grew up in Launch Your Box.
Okay, I was going to ask you, at what point on that journey did you come into Launch Your Box? Because that's where then I met you.
Yeah. So I launched Yarnable, the subscription, in 2019, I think in June. And then I joined Launch Your Box in October of 2020. So it'd been about a year and a half.
Okay.
And so I was struggling through, how can I grow this thing?
What happened then once you kind of jumped into Launch Your Box and you started going through trainings and just being around the other community? What kind of happened in your business?
So it was really eye-opening what it is like to do something on your own and struggle through by yourself. Mm-hmm. Even if you're really good at teaching yourself things, with the internet, YouTube, all those things, even like, I think I'm pretty good at that. But even still, when I joined Launch Your Box in October and learned as much as I could through my next launch in February, I doubled my subscribers. I had 300 subscribers coming in. I launched in February after learning everything I could from you in that kind of short period of time. And I hit 700 and something subscribers.
Yes.
In like
overnight
2 days. Like, yes. Yeah, like so fast.
I remember
and had like that freak out where I posted in the group and I said, I need to shut this whole thing down. Like, the launch, it's going too well.
Yeah. And I was like, girl, you're not shutting anything down. We're going to get through this. Let's talk about it. And you did. And so you doubled your business in a matter of days.
Yes.
By putting into place some of the things that you were learning inside the group. And you had done an amazing job launching on your own and getting to where you were. But I think that the struggle, and I felt this way early in my business too, was that I didn't know what I didn't know. Right. And so while I built a super strong business on my own, there were just things that I thought, God, there has to be an easier way. There has to be a better way. There has to be a more streamlined learning experience than me Googling and YouTubing and all the things that I was doing, just similar to you.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so now your business is crazy. You've got over 700 subscribers. And I remember talking to you. This is what we talked about on that episode almost 2 years ago. You needed help. And it was really hard for you to hire help because you were doing everything out of your home, right?
Yes. We were still in my house, which at the time was not a very large home. And I lived in a small ranch and we were packing 700 boxes every month in my living room. I did have a VA, so that was good. I had a little bit of help and I had somebody who would come in and help me pack, and my husband and son would sometimes chip in, and I would drive them crazy and beg them to please help me. Yeah, what I learned was, I wanted all these subscribers, and I did, and that was great, but I didn't think as far ahead as, well, what happens when I get these subscribers that quickly? Like, oh, I need a whole nother set of skills. I need to do a whole nother set of things. My business kind of had to catch up to where I was at with the subscriber count. And I was so grateful that I was already in Launch Your Box at the time, because my business kept growing. Like, it didn't stop at that 700. The very next launch I did, which I think was maybe a quarter later, we added 400 people in 24 hours.
Yeah,
like
insane.
I mean, it was like, I struggled, I feel like, for a year and a half to learn all these things myself. And then, like you said, just having a more streamlined way to learn and to see what other people are doing and what other people have done that worked and didn't work, and all the trainings that you provide. it was so much easier to grow.
Yeah.
It blew my mind.
But then you were almost outgrowing yourself, right?
Yes.
So
100%.
you were growing at such a rapid rate. You were just so in the weeds with the day-to-day that you couldn't even see or figure out what you needed to not be in the day-to-day, right?
Yes. I didn't even have the time to sit down and think, how am I going to run my business? How can we best ship these boxes? It was just like hair on fire every day just to meet our commitments to our customers.
Yeah. And it's and I know, because I've been there too, Cheryl, like you get like all the shipments out for that month and you're like, oh my God, I can breathe, but you can only breathe for 5 minutes because you got to start prepping the next month, right?
Yes. It's like, okay, now I can go to sleep at, 11 o'clock at night and wake up tomorrow morning and it's day one of a whole new cycle, which I loved and it was great. But I knew, kind of like I knew at the beginning when I joined Launch Your Box, like there has to be a better way to do this now.
Yeah.
Right?
And that was probably near that summer that I was working on the beta version of Scale Your Box. And that was really a need that a lot of you had been asking me inside the group, like, hey, will you do training on how you scaled, to thousands of subscribers? Like, will you do a more in-depth training for people where we're at? Because there was this group of you that had come into Launch Your Box. You've grown and grown and grown, and you've grown together. You've been working with each other, talking with each other, but now you were ready for something more. And I was really afraid to like dig into that inside Launch Your Box, because at the same time, we had people that were brand new to business coming in and launching for the first time. And if I start talking, Facebook ads and deeper content and all this, I was worried that I was going to just overwhelm them. And I don't want to overwhelm people. So Launch Your Box became like this great place to get started, which you came into Launch Your Box having already started, like so many of our members do. But what it was becoming was this hub of subscription box owners from all over the world on all different levels. And it was amazing to me how this community was just driving each other's success, cheering each other on when we're all in the same industry. Yeah. And I really just wanted to provide training on every level for all of these people to just stay and hang out. And so Scale Your Box came along. And I worked with a group of you guys that had been in Launch Your Box for a while, begging for more. And we went through about 6 months of training. And I know this is where a lot of things had changed for you as well. And, someone asked me the other day, I don't know if it was on a live, I think it was on a live, about what did you do first, or what would you do first in order to scale? And their question was, would you hire more people or would you get a bigger space? And I think that you were right at that cusp of that exact question. So I would love to talk through that. Like when you were going through okay, I am growing so fast. How did you deal with those two things in front of you?
So it is such a tough place to be, because it's scary to take some of these leaps of faith, right? And commit yourself to that next level, because, moving out of your house, getting a lease, doing these things, like you're committing to something. Yeah. And sometimes, it's scary to do that before, like you're busting at the seams, before you're busting out of your house. I wish I had done it sooner. And it's one of those things in retrospect, easy to say, but I kind of feel like every leg of my journey, I wish I had made certain decisions sooner, because I think it would have been a lot easier if I had trusted myself and trusted the process and maybe made some of those decisions a little sooner, instead of waiting until I was absolutely, beside myself, and then having to backtrack and sort of fill in all the gaps that, were kind of being created all over the place. So for me, I think it would have been really great to learn, had I learned some of these skills prior and took them with me as I was growing, that really would have been ideal. But, that just isn't the way it worked out for me. So that's fine. But
So tell me what you did next.
Yeah.
You're at the point where you need to both hire and you need a bigger space. And I think that what held you back and what also holds back other people is that I don't want to hire because I am working out of my home. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's number one. I don't want people in my home, in my space. My space is not big enough for me to have more people in it. And so that was issue number one. So we put off hiring.
Yeah.
And then that kept our space getting smaller and smaller because as the business was growing, we needed more product, and you hand dye everything. So you were not only just taking product in, but you were having to manufacture your product in your home. So the space became to close in on you. And so now you're at the point where like, I know I need both, but where do I invest the money first? And I think that what you said a minute ago is the exact reason that people don't do either of these two things, because you weren't trusting yourself.
Yeah.
You had created this business, in the hopes that it would create an income for you, and you loved what you did, but you probably didn't imagine that you would be an employer. You probably didn't imagine that this would be maybe more than just kind of a hobby that brought in some income for your family. And so now you're trying to take something that you started out of fun and out of need, and I'll make some extra money on the side, into like a full-fledged business without any business training, without any business education, without any where's this step-by-step checklist on how to start a business, right? But the problem is you were already knee deep into the business and it was growing faster than you could even imagine. And so when someone asked me the other day, do I invest in space or a team? And I think you need to do both. Yeah. And I think if you can do both simultaneously, you're just going to feel more comfortable about those investments. Because if you went and said, okay, I need a space so I can hire people. Okay. So I'm going to go rent a space and then I'll hire. Well, you got all these subscribers. You got to move all this stuff. You've got to get set up. You've got to get this going. You need people to get into this space, to learn this space, to be a part of the growing this space. And so for me, it was both. And you were probably at the point where you knew you had enough money to cover someone's paycheck. Mm-hmm. You had enough money to cover a rent for a warehouse or a space somewhere because you had so many subscribers. But I think what holds us back from doing this sooner is that we don't have the money, or we don't think we have the money, because we're reinvesting almost everything right back into our business. So there's not a lot of money left over. And typically two, we're not even paying ourselves for a long time when we start our business because of the cost of running a business and getting more inventory. And we're on this time frame with a subscription box where I need inventory and I need it now, and I need to use this money I just made to buy more inventory. So we're kind of in this cycle where we don't really have excess money to invest in these before we need it. So we kind of have to wait till we get it and then we invest, but then we're behind. Am I talking through that? Like
it makes sense, because for me, like you said, I did have the money, but I don't know that I knew I had the money, because the other part too is sometimes, we're starting out as kind of this hobby business, and we're not mathematicians, we're not CPAs, we're not, doing all these things. So our money is kind of like, oh, well, I'm just going to look at my bank account and see how much money I have. And then I know I got to buy my product and I've got to buy these things, but I don't know like how that really all looks on a month to month basis, how much I'm going to have left over. And so that was all scary. Like I had to kind of get over that hurdle of, well, I got to get my finances in check and see, like, because I am not super risk adverse as a person. So I knew the money was there because I always, I had leftover money every month, but I was more like, well, but what if I need it for something? What if I need it for this? And once I kind of got my finances in order and realized and hired a bookkeeper to sort of take care of my money, I realized, oh, okay, like I really can't afford these things, and I can handle my business more intentionally instead of just looking at my bank account and seeing, what I need to buy this month.
Yeah. And if you look at it, not I'm spending money, I'm reinvesting it back
Yeah.
in my business. I'm investing in people that will grow my business. So I'm going to get a return on that investment for hiring, and I'm investing in space to be more efficient. And then I won't be paying so many labor hours because we're moving crap from here to here to here all the time just to be able to work. And so I'm being super inefficient with my time, and my time is worth more dollars, right? And so I think if you can look at spending the money as an investment on your business, you're going to do it sooner than later.
Yes.
And that's really where things changed for you. So let's pick up on your journey.
Yeah.
Hiring some people, moving into your first space. Then let's talk about what happened with the business at that point.
Yeah. So, I was lucky because I did have somebody when I was at my house sort of coming over and helping me, and it was a friend. And I was lucky that when I moved into the space, that friend agreed to become an actual employee. So she was my first employee, and she made it easy on me because she let me test all these things out on her. Like, I didn't really know what I was doing. And you helped me through, how to handle, like, where you can kind of go to find help for payroll and all of these things. And it turned out it really wasn't as hard as my head told me it was going to be. It was pretty simple. And so now that I had this space where I could store all of my items and they weren't in my home, my home and my family life became so much better because, like you said, I was doing production in my home. I was storing thousands of pieces of inventory in my home. Like, it was absolutely bananas. And suddenly I felt like an actual business owner.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helped my confidence because now, okay, we had the space, we had a way to keep things organized, where before it really wasn't possible to be organized because there was just nowhere. And so having the space and then having an employee to come in earlier than me. So when I walked through the door, work was already being started. It felt so different, like this massive weight had been lifted off of me. Like, oh my goodness, I can just kind of step in and the day's already going. Yeah. And that was really cool. And it was addictive. And so I've continued to hire, and we have hired several more people, and we have a little team now, which is phenomenal because I can do things like take a day off. I can do things like, I had some minor health issues over the summer, and I could be home and my yarn was still getting dyed. My boxes were still getting packed. There was no emergency. I could take a trip to Sub Summit, right? And like the business didn't collapse, even though I was gone for a week. So that was fabulous. Yeah.
So, okay. So we're now in kind of this next stage of business for you.
Yes.
And we've got the bigger space. We got the hiring. How has the growth continued? Are you still seeing growth? Have we plateaued at all? I mean, 2022, gosh, that's been a hard year for all of us. Talk a little bit about like what's happened with the subscription box.
Yeah, it's been a year for sure. So what has happened for us is basically 2021, we just exploded the whole year. I mean, it just continued the entire year. We ended up probably around 1,600 subscribers is where we had ended the year. And we thought like, oh my goodness. But what I learned is that not every year is going to look the same in business, right? Yes. And so 2022 looked very different from 2021. But I wake up every day so grateful that I have had the opportunity to take all the trainings in Launch Your Box and all the trainings in Scale Your Box, because I mean, 100% honesty, I really think that that's what allowed me to stay consistent, maintain my subscriber count. We did not see a ton of growth in 2022. However, I think I realized early on that we were going to be in a season of maintenance for 2022 with everything that was going on. Yeah, we just sort of accepted that. But also my subscription business allowed us to make a move and purchase our dream home. And so a huge part of 2022 was us doing a massive remodel on our original little home that we had packed all those boxes in. And then, we sold it, bought a new house, moved in. And so that really took us straight through September, that whole process. Mm-hmm. And with the economy and things the way they were, I was really focusing on retention, which you taught us in Scale Your Box. I was focusing on streamlining my fulfillment, maximizing the value of our customers. Like, these were the things that you had taught us. And I didn't know it at the time when I took Scale Your Box in 2021, that like these skills were going to be so important to me almost a year later.
Right.
But I really think that had I not had those skills and built that, like those muscles in my business already, that I may have been in a much different place. But instead we still grew 25%. Our gross revenue was up 25%.
That's incredible for 2022.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yes. And we're still like maintaining our subscriber count. And Sarah, we work a 4-day work week. I work from 9 to 2:30, Monday through Thursday.
That is worth more money than anything you could have ever told me.
I mean, are you kidding me? That's crazy.
That's what it's about. And I think that I am so excited for you, because when we start our businesses, and there are people listening right now, Cheryl, that are just in the grind of it, and we go through the grind. But hear Cheryl say, the grind doesn't last forever. We hustle our faces off when we start our business because we have to. We don't have the money to just throw in a whole bunch of resources and pay for someone else to hustle for us. We're doing this. We're bootstrapping it ourselves, and we're building this business, and it takes periods of hustle. And it takes periods of a lot of hustle for periods of time, but you will get to a season where you get to just be. You get to just be still in your business. You get to focus on different things in your business. And it takes a lot of work to get there. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't just happen one day that now I'm like this CEO that comes into my office and I work 9 to 2:30 and I work 4 days a week like Cheryl Ham does. He worked really, really hard to get there. Yeah. But just know, if you're in the season of hustling right now, building that business, that you are going to get there. And it just takes layering those pieces one thing at a time. And for Cheryl, she did one thing at a time, and she stayed focused on one learning. I heard her say over and over, she took time out of her day and her business to learn and implement what she was learning. And we need to be lifelong investigators. We need to be lifelong learners. We need to continue to think that what I'm doing now is great, but it might not get me to the next step. What we do in the beginning to build our businesses is not what it's going to take to grow and scale and sustain our business. And I remember making a prediction at the end of 2021 that 2022 was going to be about maintaining. And it was going to be, if you could maintain your subscribers through 2022, that was a huge win. And you did just that. We saw so much online growth in 2020, and it continued through most of 2021. But there was a point where that was going to plateau, and we just had to stay strong. We just had to maintain, and we couldn't expect unicorn years over and over and over again. Like, if you look at I was going through this exercise myself with my bookkeeping team, but we look at my years of growth, like double, flat line. But you know what? That flat line that I experienced this last year is incredible. And that's what I have to be excited for. To have a repeat year of the year I had before that was completely amazing. Yes. Give me that again. I'll take that in 2023 again. Give me that in 2024. Because what we are seeing also with Cheryl's story is that she's not only growing, because she grew 25%, but she grew with her family. She grew with her home. She grew with her time back. And when we look at the value of that stuff, it outweighs any other physical growth. There's no need for Cheryl to be like scrambling and trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. And people, that's hard for entrepreneurs, right? Because we are driven. We wouldn't be sitting here today if we weren't driven, because it takes a lot of self-motivation to get up every day and work as hard as we do. but to be okay with what we've got and to learn that our time back for ourselves, for our personal growth, for our family, that is almost more value. It is more valuable than anything that we could grow in our business. So we don't need to get in this rat race of, I've always got to be better. I've always got to do more. I've always got to do this. We're getting our time back. We're getting our life, and to live this life that you never even dreamt was possible. Like, that is the ultimate win. And that's what's happened over the last couple of years, right?
It's amazing. I mean, when I started, I was working a full-time, high-pressure sales job and doing this on nights and weekends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's where I started. And I just wanted to make the car payment. I just wanted a little extra. And I wanted it to be consistent. So I knew every month I could like pay some bills. And to what it has turned into. And to your point, I feel like, could I have worked longer hours this year and tried to do more launches and tried to do more things? Like, probably I could have. Mm-hmm. But I also feel like, coming off of that growth, at first I was like, oh, I really wanted to hit 2,000 subscribers in 2022. And, man, I didn't do that. But I really enjoyed this year. Like, I really enjoyed my life this year. And it turns out I'm perfectly okay with where I'm at. And hopefully next year, or this year now, 2023, we can, put a little more hustle in maybe. But I think taking care of yourself is so important too, right? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just, like, I see this smile on your face. You guys are listening, so you can't see Cheryl and I, but it's such a different, it's a whole different place that you're in. And whether we grow to 3,000 subscribers, or we get to 2,000, or we stay at 1,600, like, you have created a life that you have dreamt about. Yeah. And that's most of the time why we start our businesses. And I don't want that to get lost in the hustle. And I think that is the difference with, sometimes people think it's transactional. And it has to be really something that fills you up and fulfills you to continue doing it, because we work a lot of hours. But when you can sit back and see what you created and the life that it's giving you, that's why we do this. That's why we continue to grow. That's why we continue to learn what we can learn to take us to the next step, because we keep dreaming about this life that we want for ourselves, for our kids, for our families. And it's not always about the hustle. And so I appreciate that so much. And, I'm excited about this new year. I love a new year. I love a fresh start. I love looking back and having perspective. And, I know that you're coming back to Scale Your Box this year. We're going to get started next month, but I'm curious and people ask me this, why do people keep going through the course again? And because you came to the beta version, which was a membership, and we learned a lot about what we needed in that 6 months. And then I created the course last year. And oh my gosh, it's like the best thing I've ever done. That course is like the best thing I've ever created. But you're back, and there's not a lot of material changes from last year to this year, but you're back. And I want to talk through why that is and what your game plan is this year.
Yeah. So honestly, for me, as soon as I saw that you were launching Scale Your Box again, it was a no-brainer for me that I was going to come back for a number of reasons, really. One, you can only focus on so much at one time. And so what was my main focus the first time I went through it is going to be a little bit different this time. And even though I have the materials, because you get the materials from the first course, it's different to go through it with a group. It's different to go through it with you leading the course. And I know I'm going to get something different out of it, because I still have challenges. It's not like, oh, we have this great business now and we're challenge free. No, we have all kinds of challenges that we're still trying to overcome, and things that we want to do better, things that are going well, but we know we could really kick it up a notch if we did some tweaks here and there. And I'm really ready to get like re-energized and just double down on what we've been doing well. And then, like I said, tweak the things that we, maybe need a little bit of improvement.
Because that's all it is, right? Sometimes it's just these small little tweaks to what you're already doing that make a huge difference. It's not like you're going out there and you're starting a new subscription box this year, or you're going to go change everything or start something new. It's like taking what's already working. We already know your business is working. And how can we be more efficient? How can we tweak a few little things? And how can we dig a little bit deeper into what you're doing? And I saw that with you last year when you went through Scale Your Box, and you did some great content that really drove your business. And it also really helped you with a connection with your existing audience. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you did last year to kind of help retain your customers?
I feel like we really doubled down on the community aspect, and it was important to us to make our customers feel really, really special and make them feel like they were getting something really exclusive, and that they weren't just purchasing a product from us, but they were part of a larger community. And I think that really helped, because the people that have stayed with me, some of them have even canceled and then come back because either, their financial situation has improved, or they just realized, wow, I really missed this in my life. And to me, that speaks volumes, even more than maybe some of the people that have stayed, but the people that have canceled and then 2 months later they've resubscribed and now they've been with me for another 8 months.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, wow, they see the value in being a part of this community. And I've tried to put myself out there a lot more by, showing up on video, showing up on the reels. And a lot of people have reached out to me, customers, and said, we really enjoy seeing you. We really enjoy seeing your face and getting to know you. So I feel like a combination of that marketing, that multi-level marketing plan that maybe multi-level is not the right word, but that you taught
We're
us.
not running an MLM, everybody. Multi-channel marketing
multi-channel marketing plan that you taught us. I feel like I tried to implement that as much as I could, and it wasn't perfect by any means, but just doing something is better than doing nothing, right? If you're at level 1 and you kick it up to level 2, you're going to see some improvement. And so I did as much as I could of that. And I think it paid off really well.
Yeah. And I think that once you get consistent with like your level 2, right? Like you're just saying you went from level 1 to level 2, then it's like, okay, this year I want to go to level 3, because now I've gotten really consistent with level 1 and level 2 things. And so now I want to build more into that. And that's what I encourage you to go through, whether you're in Launch Your Box or Scale Your Box, or you're just watching me on my public page. I want you to get really consistent at like 1 or 2 things first, and not try to do everything at once, because it's impossible to keep up with that. And it's about layering those in. Okay, I want to do this next, but I'm not going to try to do 4 new things at once. And so how do we do that? How do we build a plan for that? And I'm really big on creating a plan for things so that we know what to do when, not just these big picture fluff ideas like, oh, you should do this. Go figure that out. It's like, you should do this. This is how I do it. This is the structure I put behind it, so that it becomes repeatable and it becomes just part of your everyday routine. And it doesn't feel like this big, giant, hairy, scary thing that I have to figure out on my own. And so, that's what we're doing. When we think about what you want to do this year, you've talked about, I want to get to 2,000. And when you think about, okay, how do I get from my current subscribers to that next goal? What do you think about, what are you going to dig into this year to kind of do that? Have you thought about what you want to do?
Absolutely. I'm really excited for this year. We have some big plans for this year. So, you've taught us a lot about our, setting our rocks and setting our big goals and sort of like not overwhelming ourselves with all of these huge things. And I really took that to heart. And this year we've put in a plan to, we want to grow to 2,000 subscribers, but this year we're focusing more on infrastructure first. So our first half of the year, we're focusing on moving into a new space. We're focusing on purchasing some pretty hefty equipment that is going to allow us to just be super efficient and maximize our time. And we're focusing on hiring. So the first half of 2023, we're really going to be working on systems, processes, and we have a lot of that in place now that we put in with Skill Your Box the last time, and we're doubling down on that hardcore.
Yeah.
And I feel like what is going to happen is when we hit June, we're going to be able to take on so much more. We're going to be running so smoothly and so well that we'll be able to handle the growth that we're hoping to obtain in the back half of 2023. So yeah, that's really our focus is on, we're going to be flying to some showrooms to look at some of these equipments. We're going to be doing some like really cool stuff that, I don't know, I never thought could even be possible.
When you're dyeing yarn in your kitchen sink,
yes.
right? You never thought you would be in this place a few years later, right?
Yeah. It's absolutely bananas. And my goodness, I'm so excited for it.
I'm so excited for you. I know that there are people listening that might be in the hand dyeing in my kitchen sink stage in whatever business that they're in. What advice would you give to them as they're maybe beginning their journey?
Yeah. So I think that people need to believe in themselves. I think that people sometimes give up a little too early. And when they hit that breaking point, instead of investing in themselves, they stop because they don't believe they can do it. Yeah. And I really think you can't really achieve something that you don't believe you can do. It's very difficult if you think this isn't possible, because why are you going to try to do something that you think is impossible? Yeah. So I think you really have to believe that I can achieve this as long as, you put the work in, you do the things you need to do. It's not going to happen overnight, but that's okay. We kind of have to enjoy the process and enjoy the stages that we're at. And not everybody wants to have a big business. So sometimes we need to take a step back too and think, what is my actual goal here? Because your goal might be have 500 subscribers. It might be have 100 subscribers. And that's absolutely perfect, right? So I think we need to figure out what we want for ourselves and then believe we can do it. And then once we do that, invest in yourself, invest in the learning, because you'll get there so much faster. You don't need to spend a year and a half like I did struggling through all of these things. Like I was like, oh, if I had this, so much sooner, like maybe I could have been somewhere else now, but
but it's also like surrounding yourself with other people that are like-minded, right? And I think that's where the communities have the training's there and the training's good. I mean, I created it. The training's good. Yeah. But I always look back and I never imagined that the community would be so amazing. I just thought people would be there to learn and that would be fine. But the community has just changed everything. And it's just made everybody go further, faster together. And I think that when we're entrepreneurs, it can feel incredibly lonely because we a lot of times do business alone in our homes by ourselves. Sometimes we don't have adults to talk to during the day. And I think that can become very lonely, and you don't have a boss telling you good job. It could feel like your efforts are for nothing, especially when you're in the beginning of your business and you're kind of in that really like tough growing stage. And so having a community that not only gets it, but really encourages you to keep going, to keep looking at different things in different ways. And that's really vital to our success as business owners.
It is. It's 100% vital. I feel so supported in the Launch Your Box community. And that's why I'm still there. I might not always be in the group every single day, but I know if I need something, if I need somebody just to tell me I'm doing a good job, I can post in there and they'll be like, you got it, girl. Yes. Like I know in the back of my mind that even though I'm maybe working alone for 2 months, if I show up in that group, I'm supported with anything that I might need. And that's an amazing feeling. I think people don't put maybe enough value in that all the time. They think, oh, well, I only need a group if I have a question. I only need a group if I need to learn this very specific thing. But you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know in the future what might pop up too. It's good to have a community, and your community is one of the best or the best really that I think I've ever been a part of, because I've been in other groups before, but the people in Launch Your Box are so supportive. They are so willing to just cheer you on and lift you up if you're having a bad day, if you're having a bad month, if something didn't go the way you wanted, because that's the reality, right? We have a lot of wins, but sometimes we don't.
And we need to be able to have a space for when we're feeling defeated, when we're feeling alone and like, I'm the only one failing at this, right? But because that's not true. We all go through these periods of failures and successes. But I think what else is really what I love about the group is how helpful everyone is, and also sharing what they're doing and what they've had success on. And it's opening our mind like, oh, if that worked for her, let me try this for me and see if that works with my audience, or see if that works with my subscription, or sharing suppliers, or sharing products, or sharing all kinds of things. And so, I mean, I love it. I love it every day that I get in there and answer questions, and I feel inspired and to do something different in my business as well. Yeah. And, we're going to kick off Scale Your Box at the beginning of February. And I can't wait to see your face on those Zoom calls every week, and all the other people that have joined us. We have a lot of alumni that are returning for Scale Your Box. So that's going to be great. It's like hanging out with old friends. And we have lots of new people that are jumping in, and they are ready to take on Scale Your Box. And if you're not at the Scale Your Box stage, it's okay. We've talked to someone like you that has over 1,000 subscribers. We also talked with Carrie the other day on a Facebook page that she came to Scale Your Box and she didn't even have her box launched yet. And so I feel like it's for people that are just ready to learn and implement the next thing. It's ready. You've got the basics down wherever you're at on your journey with your subscription box, but you're ready to learn and go deeper. But you can't just keep learning. You have to implement it. You have to take a piece of the training. It doesn't have to be the whole training. You have to take a piece of it and implement in your business so that you can get results. So then you can tweak whatever you're doing and continue to grow.
Absolutely. I like to say, for me, I pick the lowest hanging fruit, right? If you give a training, and I'm like, oh, that I can do, that piece I can do. Maybe I can't focus on the whole thing. Well, that's great. I have it here and I can rewatch these things, but I can take this piece and do something really great with it. So yeah.
Well, I'm excited. If you need some hand-dyed yarn in your life, Cheryl, where do you send them?
You can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Hypnotic Yarn. And that's probably the best way to connect with me. And
go check her out on Instagram, check out her reels and all the great things that she's doing. And I hope that you feel inspired by Cheryl today, because it's about taking that one next step. So what is your one next step that you're going to take in 2023 to continue to learn and grow in your business? Cheryl, thank you for joining me on the podcast today. And we'll be back with another great episode next week. If the idea of creating a subscription box is swirling around in your head, I encourage you to head over to launchyourboxwithsarah.com, get on our waitlist, and grab some of our free downloads to help you get started. That's launchyourboxwithsarah.com.